Good evening, everyone. Thank you again. This is class 2. Have started, and I'm so excited that you have all joined Wedding Management Blueprint course. And for course number 1 or class number 1 is connecting and the budget, which are two things that are extremely important for when you are starting to plan with your bride. But before I jump into that, let's go ahead and talk about the onboarding process. And it's something that some people have a process, some people don't. I will tell you that for the longest time, I kind of just, did things from off the top of my head. And, some things got done, some things got left out. I did it differently every time, which honestly takes time away from what you're doing. They say every time you change task, it takes you another 15 minutes to get back on track. So you need to put together your own onboarding process, your own onboarding your client's process. This is kind of the route that we take. So what I mean about onboarding your clients is once that client has paid their deposit and that deposit hits your bank account, they are officially a client. Right? They could have signed the contract, they could have signed the proposal or accepted the proposal. And then but once they make that payment and that payment hits your account, then they are a confirmed client, right? They have purchased the date on your calendar. So basically what I want you to do is once that comes in, I want you to reconfirm that date is on hold in your calendar. And the reason I say that is so many times we depend on our client relations management systems, our CRMs, which is Honeybook or Dubsado or 17 Hats, or any of those kind of programs that we use. So it's always good to make sure. And perfect example, I had that happen today. We had a bride that moved from last October to this October. And she was in our iPlanner system, but in our master calendar, her date didn't transfer over the way it's supposed to be. So knowing that in the back of my head that date was coming, that date was booked, I made sure that was in there. So make sure that that's confirmed in your calendar. Then you're going to create your client's account in your personal CRM, which is your client or customer relation management system. Now, it could be Honeybook, it could be Dubsado, it could be 17 Hats. If you have Aisle Planner, they also have a route that you could take where you could do the contracts and everything in there. But I'm also going to share, I have shared with you in the system, a Google spreadsheet document that I have that you could use as your CRM until you're able to get one of your own. And this is what we used for a long time before we started getting all these different planning systems, right? So definitely we'll go through that when I'll go through that next with you. But basically in your CRM, you need to have all of your clients' basic information. You need to have, of course, their wedding date, couples' full names, if they've already chosen a location for their wedding, that's in there. All the information that you've collected already between the inquiry form, your discovery call. It's also all the same information that you had to be able to process your contract and proposal with them, right? You also need to make sure that anything that you contracted with them, that you have those details in there, because it's almost constantly reminding them of what they booked with you. Right? And it reminds you as you get more clients and you get more clients and more clients, okay, Susie has partial planning, Rebecca has full service. So you need to know what you've document what you've promised to deliver to them. So that's your CRM. Then I need you to create and send a welcome email. Right? And in your welcome email, you're basically going to share with them the CRM. So if you actually have say you use the Google document, it's a Google spreadsheet with, say, here's your Google Doc, we'll communicate through here. More and more people have a Gmail account, so it's easier for them to use it, and it's a great way. Why do that? We use that for the longest time because it's a living, breathing document that can constantly be changed. So they have access to it, you have access to it, and there's things that they can constantly upload. And we'll go over that in a little bit. And then I want you, so it's kind of like an intro. You're so happy to be working with them. Introduce them to your, your planning portal or your CRM, whatever you're using. And then also kind of let them know your policies and procedures. So part of the welcome packet could also be your policies and procedures, basically your office hours, the best form of communication, you know, your office hours, best form of communication, but also like your payment policy, meeting policies. You know, are you okay with text messages? Are you okay with not? Some planners will tell you they're not good with text messages or do not like text messages. I personally do. Our business phone number is through Google. It's a Google number. And so Google keeps track for years of all communication via text. So it's never going anywhere. So that's why I like, it's not like a regular texting on your personal phone. It's through the Google number. So whatever the best form of communication tends to be, I work with a lot of millennials and Gen Zers or whatever you call them now. They like to text me back and forth, especially with something really quick. Like, hey, what do you think of this flower? That doesn't need a whole email, you know. But if it's really, really important, I always take whatever communication we have in the text message and put it in an email or put it into their file so they know what's going on, okay? And then also add in there any FAQs that you may have, any frequently asked questions that brides and grooms constantly have with you. It's good to put that in your welcome packet. And I will definitely upload my welcome packet so you guys can see it and see what it looks like. You know, how you're going to schedule, what's the next appointment, and then what you're going to do is in that welcome email, you add a link to your scheduler, because I hope everybody has a scheduler. If not, we will by the end of this course. You will set up your welcome call. Now, when you have the welcome call with them, you're going to review, again, you're going to welcome them, be really happy to be working with Johnny and Susie, and say, hey, so excited to help you with your wedding for fall of 2021. Here's what's going on. This is how I operate. You know, a lot of stuff is electronic or it's online to make it easier for you. Talk about your CRM, kind of review that, review any upcoming calls, any questions they may have. And then depending on what that client's package is what you do next step, right? So typically, if you have day of, month of planning, it kind of stops here. Because after that, it's kind of the ball is on their court. And depending on what kind of package you do with your day of, like our wedding management plus, our day of plus, whatever you want to call it, we have it where we check in with them every 2 to 3 months, depending how far their wedding is. Some our basic day of package, we step in like 45, 60 days before the wedding, and we only communicate through their Al planner. So there's different ways. So whatever your package is, but tonight we're going to go over how to go if you were having a full planning client and how to take them through your first planning session with them. Now, some of this information that I'm going to be sharing with you, some of these questions can be applied to day of, month of clients, because you're going to have to gather information. Because remember, even though you're only going to be doing day of, month of with them, you have to know as much as possible about everything, right? Or ask the right questions so they can provide that information, whether it's in your spreadsheet that you share with them or in your CRM like Outplan or Honeybook or something like that. Okay, so give me 1 second and I'm going to share with you all my so you all got a link to this today, to this folder today. And where'd it go? Okay, so I added this CRM in here, and this is one that we use, and I mean, we haven't used this since 2017, so I had to go in and clean it up a little bit. So as the course goes on, I definitely will, if I find any more added value to it, I'll clean it up for you. And again, anything I share with you, you're welcome to take it, change, make a copy of it, change it, change the colors to fit your brand, change all the wording to fit your voice. This is definitely an example for you to be able to elaborate on, take what you need, and move there. Okay, so you can't see that. Okay, so do I have to? Can you see it now? Okay, hold on.
Now we just see
Now
you.
we see
I
it.
don't know if it's just me. But now I see you. I don't see what you're sharing. Now we see it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. I thought it was just as easy. Okay, so this is a CRM that we've used for years, and it's one that someone else shared with me years ago, and I cleaned it up and I completely changed it to kind of fit me, and I even cleaned it up some more to kind of teach you all and share it with you all. I definitely do ask that you don't share with anyone else. So just definitely keep it among the 14 of you and us, and within your company. And of course, you can use it with your team. It's perfectly fine. So I have it here where the first tab is your welcome and your intro tab. And this has all the information. So policies and procedures could be, your intro tab tells everybody else, this is what this CRM is going to look like. So this is going to work really well for anyone who doesn't have an Outplanner or HoneyBook. But would definitely, if Outplanner is to me the most reasonably priced one out there right now to get started with, when you start having about 5 or more clients, because I believe they have a 5 or 10 subscription and they go from there. But before that, if you want to kind of play with this, and I think this is really good in the beginning because it's getting you used to doing it and it's repetitive. So, you have your welcome and your intro. And then you do, in there, you put all your policies and procedures, you kind of break down what each tab does, right? So your first tab is policies and procedures. So this is a super old one, but basically you welcome them again, you put your office hours in there. For those of you that have a full-time job, don't be embarrassed. And sometimes people appreciate the fact that you have evening hours when a lot of people don't have evening hours. So, put your contact information. If you have a business mailing address or they're mailing you a check, you can have it in there. It's not necessary. But at the time when I used this, I used to have people mailing me checks instead of paying by credit card. Your work style, how you personally work, and the kind of, how you handle relationships, that's in there. Any of your fees and payments, that's in there. Meetings, like how you take meetings. Any of your kind of big policies that you need them to know is in there. And then there's a tab for wedding information. So this could be very elaborate. I just kept it really basic. That's basic information for you to have in there. And again, you could add more information, notes from your meetings. But remember, you're sharing this with the client, so be careful. Don't put anything in there you don't want them to know. You could have a whole separate document going with like your own personal notes. So be aware of that. The client checklist, there's things in here that this is kind of like a master checklist. Definitely could be, I tell my brides when they pull up their Outplanner checklist, I'm like, do not be overwhelmed. You don't have to do everything. That is like the Bible of planning. Like everything you could think of is in that system. They've done all the thinking for you. It's the same thing with this list. Some things might need to be deleted. Some things might need to be added. Every client is different. Of course, the time frames could be different. I've had people planning a wedding in 6 months, 10 days before. Ariel helped with that wedding before. So, you do all that. Then you have a planner's checklist. Now, this is an example of what we put in there. This is one example of what we've done. This was for a partial planning client that we actually had. And whatever was in my contract that I said I was going to do, I put it in here. So it says up to 20 hours of in-person Skype or consultations, a 30-day walkthrough, anything that I contractually promised them or talked about and it's in their contract was put in here. And that's to keep them on track and to keep you on track. So this is just an example, but I also have some checklists for you all to review that kind of gives you the full gamut of what a planner should do and kind of give you step-by-steps for that. And then you have a guest list. Now, this is the guest list spreadsheet that we use when we work with our stationer. So I always send it to everybody because I want them to do it correctly. Because when we get into designing and we'll talk about stationery is a one piece of mail that will flip people's heads, believe it or not. Because if it's not addressed correctly, if it's not postmarked correctly, people will get upset. So it's always, nobody does an inside envelope and an outer envelope, but I always like to put outside envelope, so they kind of know. So that's in here. And it kind of helps them and get some thinking. And again, they're sharing it with you. Now, there's a budget spreadsheet in here. We have a couple different other budget spreadsheets that I will share with you, but this is kind of a basic one. Again, the things that are on the left-hand side under items, those could be changed because they may or may not pertain to your client. There's a meetings tab here for you to play with. Again, you could add all your meetings in here, or you could put it under your checklist. But this is also a good thing to share with your day of month of clients. If they book you early enough, you could, as a bonus, give them this checklist and be like, hey, or give them this CRM and be like, hey, fill this out along the way, and it'll kind of keep us connected, and you always know what they're doing, even though you're not helping them plan. You kind of keeping an eye on them. Because I love getting those little notifications that they're filling things out, because I know that they're up to it. And also it helps you for when you're doing a check-in call with them or a meeting with them, you'll be like, oh girl, I just saw that you booked Orchestra Noir for your ceremony, and Brandy is doing your logistics or whatever it is. You could kind of like holler at what they're doing, and it makes you look like you are really paying attention, which you are, but it makes you that. And then there's a final vendors list, which a lot of times brides could actually add it in here, or you add it in here. If it's a full planning client, you're probably going to be adding all of them in here and uploading all of the documents, contracts, invoices, proposals into a Dropbox or a Google Drive, to keep track of all that for your client. Then there's a plan. They're going to need to have rentals. There's a rental checklist in here that you could keep track of things that need to be rented. And I always say it's either things that that have to be rented, and then you're making sure you're managing the rental of this. If you are the full planner, this is something that you're responsible for. If you're not, this again is kind of like a worksheet for your bride to be able to work with her designer or work with the caterer, work with the venue if something needs to be ordered. Okay. Then you have a seating chart, which is simple, normal seating chart. You have VIP contact information. Typically, we like to get all the parents, especially the moms, contact information, maid of honor, and best man. But this is also a good checklist for your bride to keep track of who's coming when, who's flying out, where they're staying, and all that good stuff. Because sometimes if they have a large bridal party or large family, they need to know what everyone's doing. Especially when they get into the step parents and step grandparents and all that stuff. It's kind of a nice way to keep them organized. And what you also will notice, a lot of the stuff that we do, that we ask the questions that we're asking them, it's to invoke a response, because they're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Like, you want them, and that's what they come to you for. They don't know it all. They just know they found the person they want to marry. They saw something on TV, they saw something on Pinterest, and they want to get married. Like, that's what it is. And by you asking certain questions, or like having this system and showing it to them, it gets them thinking differently than they normally would think. Because I joke and say, we get married every weekend, you don't. My husband kind of likes that, so that he doesn't have to do a vow renewal. So he says, because we're going to do it. Okay, so years and years ago, one of my planning sisters sent this out and was like, use it. And I promise you, I've been using it for over 5 years. And it is a ceremony chart, is what I call it. And basically it's a silhouette of a bride and groom. And this will help you tremendously map out the ceremony and how everyone's going to stand. It's what you also use to get everybody the rehearsal and all that good stuff. And then you change it. I always take a blank one with me. So I either have the bride go in here and fill this out herself, or she prints it out, writes it out, and then scans it and sends it to me. And then I clean it up. And for the rehearsal, I take a blank one of these with me, because things may change. I always say the bride and groom have a vision of what the bridal party looks like, or the pairing. And then we get everybody up at the altar, and it's like, oh, I didn't realize you were so short. I didn't realize you were so tall, all that good stuff. And so this is a good thing here, and you could see it, and it lines it up, and it gets them thinking on how they want to position their their bridal party, and also like the children and everyone's names. And then the first 2 rows on both sides, those are VIPs, or like the parents and the grandparents. And something we do as a gift to them is anybody in those first 2 rows, we actually print out little cards with their name on it. So reserved for the mother of the bride, reserved for Auntie Susie, reserved for, Godfather Tom, whatever it is. And we put those out, we print those out ourselves in-house, and we put them on the chairs. That's so that we do that. They think that's a sweet thing, but we do that to make sure that no one's sitting in those chairs. It's control, ladies. It's all about control. We're ushering people in and out because we all know that everybody thinks they're VIP on somebody else's wedding day. Everybody does. So I don't want somebody like, well, I'm family, and yes, everybody's family here, but that seat was saved for Tommy, not for you. So we do that. And then there's a packing list that, again, something for your bride to use if they need to pack it. But this packing list, and we'll talk about this as we talk about the execution day, the packing list that they create helps you unpack all their personal items and helps you repack the personal items. So of course, some things that you unpack, like sparklers and favors and whatever else, those things don't go back unless there's leftovers. But the gift box and the candles that go on the table, on the welcome table, and the frames and the this and the that and the book, whatever, all those little things are in there. But the same thing about her, it kind of gets her thinking of the things that she needs to pack in her bags, and you kind of coach them through there. Because the last thing you need to do is if she's having the wedding in the city and she lives all the way in Alpharetta and she forgot her veil. So it's a constant conversation, especially towards the end. Have you packed everything? It's kind of, you're a little bit of mama bear too in there. Okay, so then we have a wedding weekend itinerary. I'm a very different planner. I want to know what's going on that whole week. I want to know what's going on that whole week because I want to be paying attention to the just in case my phone rings because something happened, or I need to fix something, or somebody didn't make it, or it's snowing in Philadelphia and somebody can't make it, whatever the case may be. But I like to put the activities because this either they could screenshot it and have it in their phone or put it in their calendar, and it kind of keeps them aware of what's going on all week. So whether haircuts, nails done, spa days, luncheons, grandma's arriving at this time, uncle's arriving, whatever it is, it goes in here. And I do that for the whole weekend. And then wedding day, this is just a basic one, and we'll go over a more detailed one when we get to the production, but this is a basic one that you could actually start playing with. What I used to do is I like pen and paper first, so I would print these out and fill it out. I'm so funny because each client still has a folder for me. We still have a folder for each client, and I write out a lot of their stuff multiple times before I even input it into our planner or input it into the Timeline Genius timeline. So by the time the wedding comes along, I know that I've memorized the timeline because I've had my hands in it so much. So the more you do and the more you plop it up. So it's always good to either do it here or do it on pencil. I would do it pencil so you could erase things and redo things around. So that's kind of a CRM. That's the basic CRM that we definitely have that we use. All right, so we're going to go back to the presentation. There you go. Okay, sorry, ladies. Oh, you have to love technology. There you go. Okay. Get out of there. Okay, there you go. Okay. You guys are alive? Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let's go back to. All right. So, initial planning session. This is what many of you said that you needed help with, and many people like, I'm just stumped, right? So the initial planning session, this is if you have a full planning client, right? In the Google Documents, there are a couple of questionnaires that I included with a ton of questions. And some people, I've seen some people actually take this questionnaire, put it into like a questionnaire format with Google and some other different kind of spreadsheet, questionnaire formats that you could do electronically. And then, but I personally just like having a conversation with my bride and groom and getting to know them. So whether it's in person or virtually, we definitely got to get into it. So your initial planning session, so it's basically you're getting to know your client. So you need to schedule an in-person or virtual planning session 1 or 2 weeks after booking, because they're excited, right? They're excited to work with you. They said yes to you because, in the conversation, you always ask for the sale. So in the conversation of the discovery call towards the end of it, if you feel like you vibe, you like them, you like what they told you, and vice versa, and you say, okay, so you're saying yes to me. Are we moving forward? Do you want me to send you a proposal? Whatever way you do your closing, and they say yes, then they're ready to go. So they're really excited. And depending on when their wedding is, you want to make sure you get them while they're still excited to get going. So before the meeting, I want you to review their Pinterest board. And I want you to review that plus the wedding plus is what I said. So normally everybody goes to their wedding board, right? I like to see their entire Pinterest board, like Pinterest page. I want to see what you're posting for your vacation, dream vacation, stuff that you like to read, what renovations, room decor you love, what fashion you love, what food you love, because that's all in there and it will tell you a little bit about the couple as a whole, right? So definitely do that. And also before the meeting, I want you to review all of your notes, everything that you wrote down about them. And also, something that I'm going to give a quick tip, before you have your discovery call with them, so before they book you after the inquiry, do some spying, because they've spied on you. So make sure you're searching them on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, all those places. Google them. Before you even respond to the inquiry, you should be doing that. Is that shady? Yes. Is it shady? No. The reason you do that is because you realize they found you either through Instagram, a referral, or your website. So they've already scoped you out, right? They've already seen you a couple of times. They followed you or something that you loved, something that you did that they loved. So they already know a lot about you. You need to know a lot about them. I found out that one of my brides graduated from the University of Central Florida, which is my alma mater. So I built in an alumni discount, which she loved. Was it a discount? I just called it that because she went to UCF. She had a 407 number. I'm like, you have an Orlando number. I have an Orlando number. And that's how we got to, but I already knew that stuff from seeing it before. So remember, do some, scooping around, whatever. But also remember bring all the notes with you again that you retyped or rewritten out so that way you're ready to go. Now, the questionnaires or the questions that I'm going to be sharing with you tonight, you could either opt to do a physical questionnaire that you send to the bride and groom and have them do it together before your call, or you could actually make it into a conversation and, asking questions in your conversation, because the idea is that you're listening, you're interested in them more, you're interested in them and what they want. Okay. So during your meeting, ask questions, listen, and take lots of notes, and let them know, whether you're in person or virtually, I'm going to be taking notes as you're speaking. Okay. I'm listening to what you're saying. Now, it's basically get really good at shorthand, ladies, because you're taking little notes here and there. It's like, favorite colors, favorite food. I mean, you should see, I don't have it with me. You should see my notes. They're like all over the place. It's kind of like a doodle almost, but it makes sense because I start writing things. Oh, like somebody said something about food. I have food here. And then if she says something about food, 10 minutes later, I added another food situation. So just have a method of taking notes. And I just think freehand is always the best. Discuss the wedding in more details. After they answer your questions and it's personal questions like, where do you like to shop? And you should always be finding out their story doing your discovery call anyway. How did they meet? How did he or she propose? How long they've been together, where they're from, culturally, all those things you get to find those out in the beginning, but then you start discussing the wedding in more details and defining their personal priorities, right? So you've asked all your questions and then you kind of review it a little bit and you say, Okay, well, I hear that, and a lot of the stuff that you were saying, I hear that you're both foodies, you've been on 2 or 3 vacations, and every time you go, you love to go like discover somewhere new to eat, whatever the case may be. Then, you kind of bring those things together. You summarize a little bit of what you've seen. It's kind of like you're going to have to learn. Some of us are analytical because that's what we do. We do what we do because we're analytical. So if you're good at logistics and planning, it's because you have an analytical brain with some creativity mixed in there, right? Some of us are more creative than logistical, and it's okay. But you're going to have to kind of program your brain to listen and process fast, because you're listening to them and you're reviewing it. And as you're listening to them, you're writing notes down. And if you need to clarify something, you can pause and ask them to kind of elaborate on something. And I'll show you the list of questions I'm talking about in a second. But you want them to tell you their personal priorities. And what I mean by that is everybody has their top 3 or their top 5. Right? And in one of the questionnaires, I actually have it so they can the couple can break it down to you. I personally tell them, give me your top 3. Because your top 3 are going to be the high ticket items on your in your budget. So when I mean top 3, right? I like saying top 3. Some people say top 5. Top 3, because that's like 50 to 60% of your budget. The top 3. So, perfect example. I have a couple right now who said the top 3 things is they want the decor to be amazing. They want a beautiful venue, the decor to be amazing, and the food to be great. Right? That's what they want. Then I've had brides like, I want to walk in this space and feel like the Atlanta Botanical Gardens are in this room. Bigger, huge, we did a wedding last January. She wanted it to be lush, like top to bottom. And that's what she wanted. But she also wanted a killer band and an amazing photographer. Those were her top 3s. But then she was like, food, and I need people to feel like they're at home because we have a lot of travelers. So her list got bigger. So the more priorities they have, the bigger the budget. That's it. Because we're good, but we're not that good, right? We're fairy godmothers, but our clipboards and pens don't turn into wands. Like, we can't make that kind of magic happen. But asking them what are their top 3 priorities, and that's going to help you steer them in the right direction and show them where their money is going to go towards what. Okay? So knowing their priorities, knowing their wedding in detail, this is going to help you formulate the budget. I need you all to think about this. My mentor, Kathy Romero, says, stay out of your clients' pockets. It's not your money. Because we all feel some kind of way. Because either A, we've never had an event that cost this much money. We've probably never ever spent this much money on one thing, unless you've bought a house. And even when you bought a house, you had a down payment of, $20,000, and put it in there, and that was it. Most of us have a mortgage payment, have a car payment, that kind of thing, right? Student loan payments, we've never put it outright. They're going to be putting money outright, but it's not your money. They're telling you their vision, and you as the expert are going to teach them, okay, this vision that you have shared with me is going to cost this. I'll give you an example. So 2 years ago, I had a bride, and it's Melissa and Jared Thompson. Their wedding has been published. We've won awards for their wedding. It was an amazing wedding. It was my first 6-figure plus wedding that was published. We've had other ones before that were just really quiet people. They didn't want to be bothered with all that. And this was a 25, 30-page production schedule. That tells you anything. And when Melissa and Jared first came to me, they were a referral from a past couple and they came and they were like, oh, we met a couple weeks before the holidays one year, and they sat me down and I let them tell me their entire vision. They wanted one of them wanted a city view. One of them wanted an outdoor space, wanted fireworks. There was a lot of stuff that they wanted. And I'm like listening and taking my notes and listening. I'm like, okay, so have you guys discussed a budget? What is your spending plan, right? Some people call it that. And they were like, we are going to Well, we research, and on average, they said that average weddings are like 38 to 48,000, because that was like the national average. And I'm like, yes, but what you just described to me is 80 to 90. No, I said 80 to 100, really, what you just described to me. And that's like, that's depending on where we are in the city or where we are in Georgia. And they're like, okay, well, that's fine. Let's keep it at, between 80 and 90. So 80 and 90 for 150 people, booked it at the Four Seasons, and we were doing pretty well. I kept ponding them for the final guest list, and the final guest list came out to 298 bodies. Yes, Brandy, yes. And I will tell you this. I do not plan for the what we think is coming. Do not let these brides coax you into that. If there's 298 people on that list, that budget has to reflect 298 people. And if only 223 people say yes, because that's what Melissa wound up having out of 298, 223 said yes. 223 people came. She had extra cash to add to other things in there, which came in handy because the first fireworks company couldn't handle the fireworks because of the policy, the insurance policy, and we had to go with another company that was higher. So that extra money that we saved came in handy. So, I looked at Melissa and said, I'm good. I'm not that good. And she's like, I know. And she's like, plan accordingly. Because initially we were planning for 150 to 175 people, which was what on the list. Now, the reason I say that is Atlanta is an easy place to get to. Driving or flying. It's cheap to get to here. People like coming to Atlanta. Even people from the West Coast think it's fun to come to Atlanta for weddings. That's number one. So the rule is 80% of your guest list will say yes. 20% might say no. But moving forward, ladies, I need you to remember this and repeat these to your clients. We have not, as a society, truly celebrated in over a year and a half. We didn't get together for holidays. We didn't get together for reunions and graduations. Not really. Everybody had little miniature things, out of Zoom parties or whatever else. You are going to get more yeses now than ever. So remember that, because I promise you, those guests, I'm telling all my couples who are getting married middle of this year to next year, don't bank on people not coming, because people who normally don't come, like, shoot, I haven't seen my family in 2 years. I'm taking my trip. Because, they got vacation time, because you're still racking vacation time to be working full time. You're just not going anywhere unless you're just staycationing. But that's all we're doing is staycationing, right? Like staying home. So you have to kind of guide them in that. And I financially and I would say, I plan for the 200. And if only 150 comes, you either got money to put back in the bank, you got money to get those chargers you really wanted, to upgrade that to that premium bar, to get that linen you wanted, to get the presidential suite at the hotel, whatever it is that your little heart desire that we had to put to the side because you had no money for it, now you do. Now, if you're working with the mom and the parents of the bride are paying for it, they love to hear that. They love to hear that. So it is your job with a realistic, and then discuss, of course, the guest count and how it relates to the budget, and then share any ideas that you may have about their wedding. Because, from what you've seen in their Pinterest board, what they share with you on the first go around, you have an idea. And then looking at the notes from the questionnaire, you definitely have another idea from there. Okay, so I'm going to share. So in that document, in that document that I shared with you all today, there also is a couple of, excuse me. Okay.
Irene?
Yes.
I don't have access to the document.
Okay. I shared the link in the group. Do you have a Google Doc?
Yes, I clicked on it. Yes, it's asking me for access.
Okay.
For me, it's saying request access.
Okay, hold on.
So Irene, that document is locked at the document level. So even though you gave us access to the folder, the document itself is restricted.
Which one?
The one that you showed us before, that CRM.
Okay, I'll definitely I don't know why I did that, but I'll definitely do it. I send it over tomorrow night, or send it over later.
So
Okay.
how are you
Uh-huh.
sharing it? I'm sorry, how are you sharing it?
It's through if you go underneath Slack and you go in the class, in today's class, you click
Okay.
on there's a comment or a post, and you click on that and it goes to that.
Connecting the budget, is that the one?
Yeah, there's different ones. But
Okay, it says,
there's a folder, there's a drive, so you should have gotten a link to a folder that had all these in it.
and how do I get it says I need access.
Yeah, so you just hit request access, and I'll let you in.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
No, you're fine. So under connecting, this is another one, and these are two different ones. Again, you're welcome to use them in any fashion that you want. I won't go into deep that. You can kind of review it yourself. But these are questions that you can get deep. Of course, you already have their names. You're right, that kind of stuff. But do they have a nickname, which is very important, because we've had brides that we mail out the invitation with their real name, or their name, what we think is their real name, and we're managing their RSVPs, and we've gotten messages or somebody mails this back like, who is this? And I also had a bride and groom who did phone RSVPs, and literally the voicemail was like, I don't know who this is. And so I've called the family member back, and they're like, oh, Nikki, now, and whatever her birth name is, they don't remember it. That's how long they've been calling her by her nickname. So this is just a full list of questions that you can, I said, dive into, and getting to know the couple a little bit more about their budget, about their wedding. Like, and this is also a good thing to pull it out. If somebody hired you for wedding management and you're trying to get more information from them, you could pull some of these questions out in there, where it's like the ceremony, the location of the reception, the caterers, have they booked any of these? Have they booked their hotel rooms? So that's all in there. Information about their wedding weekend, about their ceremony, how they want that look like, about how they want the decor to look like for their ceremony and their reception, any bridal party attire, all about the bridal party, like who's in the bridal party, maid of honor, matron of honor, best man, maid of, flower girls, mother of the bride, stepmothers, grandmothers, everybody, sponsors. So if you're getting, there's certain cultures that have sponsors. So like you have a sponsor for rings, you have a sponsor for the dress, a sponsor for the liquor. And that's a lot of Mexicans that do that, and some other cultures do that too, where they have a godparent to sponsor each thing. So those people are important. And then you have the guys in here. Information about the reception and the kind of seating that you would want. And we'll go into that as we're going into more catering stuff. And then you have food and beverage. Like, what do they see? Do they want a plated dinner, a buffet, family style? Are they doing a bar? They're going to have kids' plates. Would you like late night snacks? Those kind of things. And then it goes into desserts. Well, and the gamut of desserts gets crazy. And it's funny because they're going, well, you want to talk about this? Why are we talking about all this stuff and asking these questions? It's going to help you find the perfect vendors for them, which will be next week's class, where we'll talk about the planning and the helping them get through the vendors. And so that's what any rental needs that they may have. And some of these questions will not be answered in your initial planning session. Some of these questions will be answered as you're going along with the planning, but it's also good to know, like have them start thinking about it. Entertainment, do they want a DJ? Do they want a band? Do they want both? Photo and video. I can't spell video. And then we're going through reception decor, and talk all about reception decor, and then discussing, some of their Pinterest ideas and their colors. Now, if you are strictly planning only, you still need to know as much information as possible about their overall vision, so that you can communicate it effectively to the florist. So when you call the florist or the designer, you're like, okay, here's enough. I always tell Jax, she's my designer that I work with majority of the time. I'm like, I know enough to be dangerous, enough to pass it on. And then we kind of co-design sometimes, but it's completely her baby, and she takes care of it, and she makes it. I get them there, she makes it pretty. And then any wedding activities, so bouquet toss, garter toss, father-daughter dances, speeches, any sorority fraternity dances or serenades, any anniversary dances, the money dance, last dance, any of those wedding reception activities, are they planning on it? I will tell you that less and less couples are doing bouquet and garter tosses. Less and less. I think I might have 2 or 3 a year that do a bouquet and garter toss, and the rest of them are like, we don't want to do it. And then miscellaneous things like favors, you know, do they want them? Is it a waste of money? Whatever it looks like. You know, or if they want favors, what kind of favors do they want? Sparklers will go in here, and those kind of miscellaneous things like that will go in here. And then we'll talk about stationery and the different kind of stationery that, you know, have they thought about stationery? And this also gets them to pin things that, you know, once you ask these questions and they're like, oh, I'm not sure, that's their homework, ladies. Like, they have to give you, you can help them figure it out, but you also want to see that some of the things they like, I didn't think about that. It's like, you know, why don't you pin a couple of things and of things that kind of like strike you online to help you kind of jog your creative juices? And they're like, oh yeah, you're right. So they're all the different stationery, and we'll definitely talk about stationery in the course. But you'll talk about how, you know, the different types of pieces of stationery that go into the suites, like the invitation, the place card, the invitation, the RSVP card, the envelopes, the details cards, like all that kind of good stuff. But we'll also talk in this section, you'll also talk about, you know, program menus, escort cards, and table numbers. And sometimes, like I said, some of this stuff won't be talked about in the initial planning session, but you can kind of breeze through it and mention it. And then you'll talk about, you know, post-wedding, meaning after the reception is over, do they want a formal exit? Will they have transportation for the, you know, for the two of them and their family members? And then, of course, one of the last things that we ask in our final planning meeting is, who is responsible for taking home all this stuff? Like, who is responsible for taking home all your personal items? Please give me their name and number and point them out at the rehearsal so that I know who they are. Okay, so then the last thing I have on here, it's a ranking. Now, I like doing top 3. This was shared with me one time, and it was like, oh, top 13, top 14. And I kind of combine a couple of things, but I would say you kind of have an idea. I would say, what are your top 3? And in conversation with them, then you make a note of that. But you could always share with this and see how they organize this to be their top 3. So that's that on that one. And we're gonna go talk about the budget, y'all. We're gonna talk about money. The ugly 6-letter word. Nobody likes to talk about it, but it's our job. Can you see the screen? Perfect. All right. I call it show me the money, right? So it's so funny. And one of my things that I do for brides, I call it show me the money. But establishing a budget is difficult for every couple, right? Most people have no idea what weddings cost. And they're surprised. They are surprised at how much things cost. But I don't want you to be surprised when somebody gives you a low budget or has unrealistic expectations. But it is your job to be honest, but tactful and kind with your feedback on what kind of wedding they could expect with their budget. Now, when I worked at the hotel, people would call all the time. Anybody who's ever planned an event at a hotel, you know they have this lovely plus tax and service charges. And, you know, it can go anywhere from 18% to literally 27%. Like in New York and Chicago, it's 27%. So they take the total cost of everything, and then they add the percentage, this 27%, then they add a tax to it, right? So plus tax and service charges. So a lot of times people call like, well, I only have, you know, and they would tell me their whole dream and on the phone. And I was like, okay, well, what's your budget range or whatever that you're looking at? They're like, oh, 5,000. They have 200 people they want to feed. And I would joke and say, everybody will have a chicken tender, one chicken tender, and a glass of unsweet tea. Because that's all you could get with that for 500, you know, for 200 people for $5,000. And they were like, oh my gosh, but I don't know. What does it really cost? So you really have to be realistic with them. And sometimes some people are dead set, like this is my budget. And some people, they just don't know. And one of the answers on my contact form on my website says, unsure, help us out, because they just don't know. They don't know. They think they know. They've looked at different websites. You know, one of the things that I appreciated that that show did last night, My Celebrity Wedding did last night, was that at the end of the wedding, because they kept saying, oh, 35,000, 35,000. And I'm like, oh my Lord, please let that just be decor. Because food and all that decor was not 35,000. So they broke down the decor was that much money. The decor came down to about 31,000 with the full design or whatever. That's what happened. So you have to teach them, and a lot of times they don't know. So what do you share with them? So I want you to remember to always keep abreast every year of the current national average of weddings, which the Knot does this really well. There's also the weddingreport.com. The weddingreport.com is actually really cool, and I'll share that link in the group. It breaks down by zip code. It's an average. But you could say the average cost of weddings per the Knot last year was $37,000. Excuse me. And, you know, in Atlanta, it's about this much, or in Texas, it's about this much. So it definitely informs the cost of average in your area. Become familiar with the different rates for all the services. So I know that for a great photographer, for a really good photographer in Atlanta, they start at $3,500. And they go up from there. Videography starts at $4,000 and goes from there. I don't know a $1,000 photographer. I just don't. I don't. Now, everybody has to start somewhere. So if you have a gem, a diamond in the rough that you find, take them and keep them and grow together, you know, because I've done that too. But really be mindful of what things cost in your area for every category. Hair and makeup, catering, bar services, grooming for the groom, tuxedo rentals, bridal, you know the bridal gown stores, know who sells off the rack, who sells, who does sales when, like be friends with everybody and be on their mailing list. So if you know that you have a bride who's on a budget and Anya Bridal's having a $199 sale, but hey girl, such and such bridal is having a sale. I thought of you. Here's the link. That's the stuff that's gonna make you look a superhero, knowing all that information and keeping kind of a database of all that. Again, it's our job to know it all. Not do it all, but to know it all. So be as nosy as possible, right? Ask them if they have a number in mind. Some people have an exact amount that they're contributing. They have an amount that their parents are contributing. Others want to see the entire package first, or everything together to make, for their vision, to make a decision on what the final budget is, right? But there still should be a discussion about it. My favorite is when I have dads say, oh, we don't have a budget. I guess you do. So if we spend $400,000, whoa, that's too much. Oh, well, then you have a budget. So don't ever feel like budget's a bad thing. Everybody has one, even the rich, even people who have money have a budget. Okay? All right. Next one. So next part of Show Me the Money is, when creating your budget, consider the following: guest list, the season, day and time, location or region, upfront time, and client requirement. So guest list, of course, the more people you have, the more they're gonna have to spend. And so that's why a lot of these small, intimate weddings are doing so well right now, is because people are getting to have these beautiful weddings with less bodies in the room and less tables, and they could still do. I mean, we had a $30,000 wedding for 26 people over the summer. It was stunning. It was everything she wanted, because she was planning for 175 people, chucked it down to 26 people. We had 10 tables, fully decked out, beautiful altar, and they're extremely happy because they still save money, right? So remember that the more people you have, the more it's going to cost. I always say that your budget dictates your guest list. You don't create a guest list and then try to squeeze $1 out of 15 cents. It's the other way around. Okay? Season. We all know that there's seasons depending on the region, depending on the area. Typically, late spring, summer, and fall are your high seasons. But places like Florida and California, you can get married in January and you'll be fine. That's the beautiful thing about down there. But then when I was working in Orlando as a wedding planner, middle of June to September, was my dead season. That's when I took my vacations. That's when we updated all our systems or do whatever we did, because it's hotter than Hades, right? Like you could just, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, it's 85, 90 degrees. So, you know, those seasons might be less, but also remember this year, it's going to be busy because you had all the people moving from last year to this year. And then you had the people who just recently got engaged trying to fit in. So people are getting married all the time right now. But typically be mindful of the seasons, because if somebody's on a tight budget, getting married off peak is awesome. So getting married in like January, February versus, you know, April, May, or September, October is good. And anybody who's on a tight budget, they have to be flexible. The next thing is day and time. Fridays, Sundays, a Thursday, the time of the day might be different. Some venues, depending on the day of the week that you're having the wedding, the rental fee is lower, the food and beverage cost is lower. You know, there's different deals. So the time of the day and the day is different. Upfront time, how much time are you planning for? So, you know, I had a call with the bride who's getting married in September 23rd of 2023. That's 2 years and 7 months from now. And she said only a couple of venues will actually talk to her and give her a tour. And a lot of the vendors wouldn't book her. And I said, absolutely not. That's 2.5 years working with you. Right? So and I said, but also anybody who's getting married in a year and a half, which is typical, gives you more time to plan and gives you more time to pay things off. But as planners, you need to charge accordingly. If you're going to be working with somebody for a year and a half, you have to account for that time. I told her I will do a consulting fee to review any of her venue contracts now, and she can contact me next year. And if I'm available, then I'll help her plan the rest of it, because I can't work for somebody for 2.5 years. Right. And then any requirements, and I'm sorry, there should be an S on there. Any client requirements, things that they require to be present. Like, I have to have this band. I have to have this photographer. I have to have this caterer. Like, what are their requirements, right? So the next thing is you create your first budget draft. So whether it's an actual client you're working with or a fake client, and if anybody had downloaded the production schedule blueprint that we had from last year, my fictitious draft of a timeline is Olivia and Fitz from Scandal, because I love that show. So if you want to come up with your own, you could do that. If you have a wedding management client, a day of client that hasn't fully worked out their budget, ask them if they'll let you play with their budget and do this for them, so that you can get used to kind of playing with it and asking these questions and getting through all this. So we're going to look at a couple of different spreadsheets. And again, message me, let me know if you have access to it. Thank you for letting me know about the CRM. Because I kept seeing something on, I'm like, why does that look like that? But it wasn't telling me on my end, so I'm glad you told me. But we're gonna go ahead and look at a spreadsheet. Now, when a lot of times you're going to be competing with, as a planner, you're going to be competing with like the Knot and some of these books that were like, 1% for the cake and 5% for flowers. And that doesn't work, y'all. That does not work. One thing you will have is 35 to 50% of the budget is food and beverage and the reception. Like, that's a huge part of it, right? Other than that 1%, because I did it earlier today, because I was looking at an old document that I had, an old spreadsheet, and it said 1% for the cake. So we have $50,000 budget, 1% is $1,000. So say you had 150 to 200 people, and your bride wanted to come in here, and she was like, I want a Kim K cake, or Cakes by Lamika, which is an amazing cake designer, cake baker here in Atlanta. You're not getting no cake for $1,000 unless we go to Publix, which, no shade, because Publix has some amazing cakes. Beautiful wedding cakes. They used to be super cheap until they became popular, and now they're not anymore. They used to be my go-to for my budget brides. I'm like, and they delivered too. For $40, they would deliver that cake, and it was stunning. And now they have a whole division, and they go to bridal shows. I'm like, you got bougie. I told the marketing lady that the other day, and she was like, Irene, I was like, you got bougie on me. Okay, so I'm going to share with you a spreadsheet. Okay, so, all right, budgeting. All right, so we're gonna go to the sample one. Can you see it? Okay. This is everything you could think of that's going to be in a wedding. So there's the little blue lines used to be where they actually have percentages. And I'm like, no, I never used it. And it never made sense to me because it doesn't make sense. But anything you could think of is in here. Will this pertain to every client that you have? No, it does not. But this is a good worksheet that you could work with. You know, the quantities of something, the estimated cost, the contracted, deposits, and it kind of goes on. And this is also a good way for if you're doing full planning for someone and you don't have a cloud-based CRM, you could definitely use this to kind of keep track of their payments. And then I also will tell you that if you're doing full planning, it's your responsibility to remind your clients of payment. So to have a Google Calendar or some kind of calendar that pops up on your phone that reminds you, hey, Susie and Johnny's payment to Andre Brown Photography is due next week. Let me send her a little note to remind her, okay? Because they might forget and you're gonna forget. So make sure you set calendar alerts for yourself as you're putting these, the vendor that they choose information into your system. You know the contract that says payments are due every month on the 1st. Payments are due every quarter on the 1st, or whatever that is. But this is literally everything you can think of for a wedding. Now, I will tell you this, that very few of my brides add their personal stuff to this. They don't put hair and makeup on here. We don't put the dress on here because sometimes they're sharing this with daddy and they don't want daddy to see all that. So we delete things. I've had times where mom called me, it's like, okay, so I have my own stash and dad has his own, is providing money, even though they're married. Can you clean this up? So Mr. Smith could see it? Absolutely, because mom and daughter are my clients, that kind of thing. I've had one bride that her mom went, and they're going to be 7 years married next week. Her mom went away for like 2-3 weeks to take care of her parents in Florida and forgot that the credit card statements were coming in while she was gone. And husband opened them all and had a fit because he thought he wasn't saving any money by having a wedding planner. So I got a message from the bride in panic at 9 o'clock at night. And at 9:30 at night, I put together a nice little email like, this would have cost you this, but because of my connections, it cost you this. Like I sent her an entire breakdown from the spreadsheet of how much I saved her. And she sent that to daddy and he was fine. So yes, you're always going to have to do that. I've had, high-end clients who their money managers call me and ask me for a breakdown of everything. So you always have to keep really good track of your numbers for your clients. You keep, and then if your contracts, keep them in a Google Drive folder or keep them in a Dropbox folder so that you have them in one place and you can pull them up quickly. Don't keep them in your email. And it's kind of like you're like their human file folder. But everything you could think of is in here, right? And whatever is the top 3 or 4 things that are important to them, that's what's the most money going to go towards. But I always say the first thing that they need to book is where they're going to, I say, where you're going to say I do, where you're going to eat, and where you're going to boogie. That's what we need to figure out. Because all that other stuff, yes, I've had people who want to go right into decor. I'm like, yeah, but we don't even have a building. You don't have a place to sit down or walk down the aisle. We have to get you whether it's a church, whether it's a venue that has both things, those are the biggest things that you need to book. Okay, so that's everything that's in there. But then there's also another one. Can you guys see this still or no? Okay. This one here is the one where the bride, this is an old one, but this is the one where the bride, Sarah, will be married 7 years on Monday. And this is the one where the dad was like, am I saving any money? And then when he said, Irene, I would have paid 3 times this to see how happy she was. But this is basically everything we spend for Sarah and then some. Sarah actually put her dress in here. I even think she put mom's dress in here, but then Sarah wound up getting a second dress. We didn't put that in here because we didn't want daddy to see it because the first dress, she hated it. Then mom got a second dress. We didn't put that in here. She got chairs, like other chairs. We didn't put that. There was all kinds of stuff that in this one we didn't put it in there. But this is from 7 years ago, and we had this at Callan Wall, which is so crazy. If anyone here in Atlanta, Callan Wall has been doing wedding and events for about 7 or 8 years, and this $5,000 rental, we rented the entire property and then a small little house to do the rehearsal dinner, and it was $5,000. Now that's about $8,000 to $9,000. Yes, I have a bride who just spent $8,000 at Callan Wall, and I tell people, no, that's venue poor. That's just venue poor. That's too much money. Too much money. But it's all in here. I need notes that kept in here. So all this stuff was put into my personal calendar so I could keep up with her. She had, we had, any coffee stuff going in here. Sugarcoat was like her nails, like she took the girls to get their nails done. And I also wanted to share this with you because many years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, I actually had a Groupon, and I had a Groupon for full planning, and this Groupon was $12.50 for full planning. And she paid me directly, so I didn't have to pay Groupon, which was great. And when I saw this, I was like, oh my Lord. And this is going to be really graphic, but I lost a toenail after this wedding because it was a 16-hour day. But it was a stunning wedding. I'm still close to Sarah and William, and it was amazing. And Dad gave me a shout out in their wedding video, and everything was amazing. So everybody starts somewhere, y'all. Everybody starts somewhere. So that's in there. Those two are in there for you to kind of play with and kind of get your hands wet. And again, you can ask any questions you want in the group when it comes to budgeting and, budgeting, any of this stuff. But I definitely want you to like play with it and use your imagination. On average, like, okay, $30,000 wedding. What does a $30,000 wedding in Atlanta and Texas or wherever we are at looks like realistically? For 100 people, for 50 people, that kind of thing. So you kind of get your chops and you get to learn people's websites. And it also helps you talk to different vendors and have conversations with different vendors, because as you get deeper into planning and deeper into your business, you truly have to have vendors and venues in almost every bracket. It's even now, I have places, we just found a place in Mableton that was $115 an hour for my clients. Is it in the best area? No, but you only it's not a bad area. You're inside the venue. It's beautiful. I'm like, they're going to be out here for a second and then they go in the building. But we're going to make it gorgeous. It's a Friday night, 50 people, hors d'oeuvres and desserts. And that's what they wanted because we're helping clients in whichever way we can. All right. So I could chitty chat more. So you guys, okay. So we could do a couple things. You could put your chats in, you could put your questions in the chat, or you could unmute yourself and ask your questions. But Latoya's first question was from Latoya, was this: which questions do you ask during the inquiry session versus the initial session? Okay, so in your inquiry process, you're getting to kind of know them. You're getting to ask them, hey, who are you? How did you meet? Tell me your love story. People love talking about themselves. Tell me your love story. Did you meet at college? Did you meet at work? Did you meet online? How did you meet? Tell me your story. Oh, that's so cute. And you're making notes about that. Tell me how long you've been together. Tell me about yourselves. And then they'll tell you about themselves. And they always kind of giggle because everybody has a funny love story. And some people do, some people don't. And then you also, how did he propose? And, most girls laugh. They laugh. And they're like, hey. And now if, for me, anybody who gets proposed to around the holidays, I click with them because I got proposed to Christmas Eve at Rockefeller Center. And, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, how did he do it? Who was there? And always that kind of thing. I had a couple who he put her engagement ring in her Chick-fil-A breakfast bag. And she was mad at him because he acted like a fool the night before because he was so nervous about proposing. It was crazy. And she was like, he brought her the breakfast in the living room and they never eat in the living room. And she's like, and she was so mad, and she opened the bag and the ring was in there. So as their late night snack, we gave Chick-fil-A sandwiches. You know what I'm saying? So we incorporated, incorporated that. And then, have you chosen a location? What time of the year you're thinking about getting married? You kind of digging in, you kind of knowing that. And I'll send you a list of questions. I'll add that in here too, since you guys have that inquiry questions, but you're getting to know them. Have you thought about colors? Have you thought about a theme? Tell me your vision. Like, how do you see it? How do you want to feel on your wedding day? but also ask them, how is the wedding planning going? How's your wedding planning experience going? And they could say, oh my gosh, this has been so stressful, or oh my goodness, this has been great. And the venue told me to contact you, or this has been just, I'm so stressed because I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a mother, I'm a, everything, we get a lot of I call them real world couples. Like they're out there saving lives. Like I have like surgeons and OR nurses. They're not in front of a computer all day. They're not pinning everything under the sun. I have calls sometimes at 9, 10 o'clock at night because they're in Fargo, North Dakota, and they're a different time zone than I am, or they've been in the ER all day. So you have to be flexible, but getting to know them, how they heard about you is a good question. Like, oh my gosh, I love it. It's like they eat with a referral, where they found you online. You always want to know where they came from, because that's where you put your dollars in more and you put your focus on more. Does that help?
Okay. Yes, that helps.
And I'll share some inquiry questions with you. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good. Okay, go ahead. Somebody says, or I said, what CRM system do you currently use? We use Dubsado. Dubsado is $20 a month. And I'll share it in here with you, but I was going to share it on the resources. Dubsado, we have an affiliate link that gives you like a certain discount off, but Dubsado is really, I liked it because I felt like it was simpler. I did not set it up. Wanda, my operations manager, set it up for us, but I used to use 17 Hash before that, and I used difficult. And then when she came on board a few years ago, she was like, Dubsado is easier. It was created by photographers, but they're very involved and are constantly updating it. I like Dubsado because you can create an inquiry form through there, questionnaires, your contract, your proposal, your invoices, so you get paid through that. You also do a scheduler through it, so you could actually have a scheduling link to send out to couples to schedule time to speak to you. So you're not doing the whole back and forth, like what time works best for you, okay? So that always works out really well. So that's the one I use. We use Dubsado to collect information, send out the contracts and deposits and all that other stuff, and kind of keep track on that end. And then our CRM, to actually work with our clients, we use Owl Planner. And we do that because it's easy and it's pretty and girls like, and they just like it. And everybody gets on them. Whether you're day of, month of, full planning, everybody's in that system, because that's how we keep an eye on them.
Can you repeat what you said, what you use Owl Planner for?
Owl Planner is basically plan.
Okay, just the planning, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So once they become a full client, like once that deposit received, we create their account in Owl Planner, and you could have, there's a 5, like there's 5, 10 or 15, like there's different levels, and that's how much you pay.
Yes.
So you can increase as you go. Like I think now we have 25, like the highest one, 25 or 50. But the reason we did that is because there's a master checklist in there, the budget spreadsheet is in there. What else? Everything that you could think of is an Owl Planner. And it's a good way, yes, especially if you do a lot of day of clients. If you do a lot of day of clients, this is amazing for them because they're doing all the work, but you're keeping an eye on them. It's all about, I'm going to show you real quick. You're keeping an eye on them as they're planning. You get little notes and messages in there. They send you a picture, they upload a picture. Some people do, some people don't. And some of our couples do, some of our couples don't. But this is like an example of, Owl Planner puts an example in this, you could have it. But you have a checklist in there. So that's like the master checklist, which is great because you have it gives you, the groom is responsible for this, the bride is responsible for this, I'm responsible for that. But then if you go to the full checklist, it has everything in there, right? And typically what I do, this top part here is where I put what we are responsible for. And it's all kinds of little ways you can manipulate it. But then you have a calendar where they could put all their appointments, they could put all their payments, and they can connect this to their Google Calendar or their Outlook calendar. And you could do the same thing to keep track of everything. Yeah, but their timeline in here, they have one. I'm not a fan of it because I can't manipulate it the way I like. So I use Timeline Genius for that. There's a design studio in here that they can kind of use as Pinterest. What I use it for is once their design is finalized, all that gets that gets put into here. I don't use it as an idea board. Like the final gets in here and that's it. Now the guest list is in here. They also have a layout and seating that you can do in here if you want to. Contacts is every vendor that they're working with is uploaded into here. If you hit this, you can put all of the contracts and get uploaded into here, which is great. So you can keep track of everything. The budget spreadsheets in here. Notes for every time you have a conversation with them, or there's a template for something that you're constantly repeating, like how to get a marriage license. You can create a template and add it in here so you don't have to keep repeating yourself. Our Planner has this cool thing that they can create a website on here, and you can create a really simple website for them, and that's all part of that. So it makes you look robust. It makes you look like you're doing more than the average. So that's good. Oh, okay, good. I'm sorry. Okay, perfect. Any other questions?
Yeah, so I have a question, and sorry, I would paste it in the chat, but
That's
my
okay.
setup is just,
No.
I got a lot of monitors going on, and like a couple computers. So, my question was kind of going back to the initial planning session where you said review their Pinterest board before that initial planning session. So I guess in my experience, when people are looking for that full planning service, sometimes they have not even gotten to a Pinterest board. They're just like, nope, don't know, want you to do it. So my question is, what do you do in the event that the couple hasn't even gotten there? Do you give them homework, or do you kind of help initiate that for them?
Well, if they don't have it, because we have couples who don't have a Pinterest board, which is okay. My designer actually prefers it to be that way because we get to know them and what they like. So we want the wedding to reflect them, right? So then you find out, like, okay, so what's your home style? Where do you like to shop? Like, what is your style? Are you more Nordstrom's? Or are you more Target? Are you Louis Vuitton, or are you Target brand? Like what you get to know them, and that whole questionnaire. There's questions in there to kind of lead you to that. Are you a sit down going to a full course dinner, or you like fast food? Like, what is it that you like? So you have to get to know them more and tell them to share with you what they don't like. Because a lot of times the couples who are like, I'm just not sure about design, they know what they don't like. Like I had a bride the other day was like, I don't like rustic. I don't want a Southern Belle wedding. I want modern, artsy, clean lines. Like they will tell you what they don't like, and they will tell you what they like, which is great because those are the people that let you be creative.
Okay.
Right. So if they tell you that, and a lot of times they will tell you that in the discovery call, in the initial inquiry call, they'll tell you, it's kind of like, well, describe your style to me. Like, what do you see? And you're like, well, like when you think of your wedding, what do you see? Well, and they'll tell you a little bit of that. And when they'll tell you some of those questions, design questions or vision questions, a little bit in the inquiry call, you could be doing research of some things to show them later to see if that speaks to them. You know what I'm saying? And that's a bit, you just have to get to dig into it because not all of them will have a Pinterest board.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Because I definitely run into a lot of people that are just, I don't consider myself a creative. I'm very kind of rigid and technical. And
Right.
so I attract a lot of people like myself, and they're just like, I don't know, I didn't really think of a theme. And I'm like, great.
And the thing about it is, you have to realize a theme is for a birthday party, right? There's a vision, there's a feel, there's an experience. And in one of our classes, I think it's on the 24th, we're going to talk about the design process. And not necessarily to teach you how to be a designer, but to teach you the design process so that you know what questions to ask more deeper, And so we're going to have my designer come on from Tinted Event and Design. And I love her because just as much as she's creative, she's logistical. And so she has an amazing questionnaire. And like, that's what I'm saying. If you are a logistical planner, I'm telling you these things so that you can know the right questions to ask. So when you call your designer friend or you call your designer partner, like, hey, says this bride, tell them all they need to know. Because a lot of times, especially your day of brides, if you referred a florist to them, that florist is going to call you up and be like, Sarah, Susie Q just called me. She said you're doing day off for her. Tell me about this girl. And they're going to want to know. So you give them as much information as you can from what the conversations were. I tell these ladies when I'm talking to the brides, I'm like, we are becoming friends. I will know things about you that your gynecologist knows about you. Like, it's like that. We are in each other's, I am in your underwear drawer, whether you like it or not. Like, I need to know. And towards the end, I'm like, is there anybody I need to worry about wedding day? Is there any family secrets that might come up? Like, do not be embarrassed. I've seen it all. I've heard it all. Every once in a while, somebody surprises me. I had one bride that we had worked together a year and a half. Final walkthrough, her and the groom, I see them walking on and they chit chat and it looked like they were kind of bickering. And I'm like, are you okay? He said, tell her. So she is like beat red, starts crying. We walk off. Luckily, we're like on a big property. I'm like, what is the deal, Kylie? She's like, so my mom might show up to the wedding and she's not welcome. And I'm like, your mom? Now, mind you, for a year and a half, there's been a woman coming to this meeting that was mommy. So I didn't know nothing. I'm like, that's mommy. Same last name, the whole nine. Oh, no. Her biological mother and dad got divorced when she was 2. And he remarried. And this woman raised her. This is her mom. Her biological mom, somebody told her where the wedding was going to be. So I was like, okay, I need a picture of mom. So I showed valet, security, catering. Everybody knew what she looked like. I showed everybody on my phone. Said, this woman comes on the property. Don't approach her. Stop her. Come find me. I'll find dad and we'll take care of it. We've had brothers who just came out of rehab. It's like, he cannot drink. Picture of him at the bar. Do not serve this gentleman. Like, it's that crazy, and it's embarrassing. But I'm like, don't be embarrassed. We've seen it all. Believe me. Okay. Any other questions? Was that information good? Go ahead.
It was good. I'm a little nervous because I have actually a client. I'm in the process of registering my business, but I have a friend of mine, and it's going to be a destination wedding because it's going to be in Jamaica for 2022. But my issue,
I'm married to a Jamaican and never been to Jamaica. Can you imagine?
I know. That's horrible.
Our family, just because everybody's here in the States. Like, nobody really, we've been to PR, but no one tries to go to Jamaica.
No one.
Not hating you at all, Latoya. I'll be your second hand. I'll come help you.
Yeah. So her budget, it's a $30,000 budget, but this is my first official one, and I keep dodging. I don't know what I know what I'm doing, but I don't.
Right.
I know.
I don't even know what to charge. That's my problem. And
I know
because
for a
I'm
fact.
new with this,
What to charge her for your services?
Yes, and yeah, it's nervous. I'm excited, but she's waiting. My first appointment with them is actually Saturday.
Well, I mean, the good thing is, the first thing I want to say is that it sounds like even though she's a friend, it's going to be a contract.
Yes.
Listen, I've done plenty of my sorority sisters' weddings, and there has been a contract. Like, even though it's super discounted, it's a contract because I gotta account for it, and you have to account for it. But Susan, do you have any pointers as far as destination planning?
Yeah, a lot of Jamaica locations have wedding planners there. So you technically all need to do is connect with them and they do it all and you just show up.
Okay.
So which is a good thing. You just have to find out exactly what resort she's looking at, what type of feel she's looking for. If she wants to be on the beach, if she doesn't want to be on the beach, that type of feel. But most of them already still also have packages for weddings that has pretty much a lot of things already set as decor and color and things like that. So it's a little bit easier for you as a planner from here to just go in and work with that coordinator. And then on that day, all you're doing is making sure she's showing up, everything's in place and people are in place. So which is a good thing.
Has she chosen her location yet?
Not yet. She's going to be choosing that by the end of the week. She's in between 4 venues right now. Yes.
A lot. I mean, listen, one day at a time. One at a time, but definitely something that we could talk about. I mean, I would even connect with Susan and you guys could chat about that because, you're going to be assisting her from here and getting her there, and then you're going to be working with everybody there.
Right.
So a lot of people do that. A lot of people do take a planner or somebody with them to their destination, and then you will work with the planners there.
Yeah, one of the
Okay.
things that we learned was that if they're going to take you there, they pay for your expenses to be there.
Okay.
So you add that into your cost of the fee. So you'll
Okay.
have your fee that you have for the full service flat fee or whatever fee percentage, whatever you're going to charge. And then the actual hotel room and flight, that's just an additional cost that they have to pay for you to get there.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to get all that.
But you could work that out the way you want. Like if you're saying just pay for my flight and I'll pay for the hotel, whatever you want to do. But from what we learned in our contracts is to add that in as additional cost.
Okay.
But you can reach out to me.
Okay, perfect.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I can't remember exactly who asked the question, but I know, Irene, when you were talking about using aisle planner, I guess I do want to just caution, I don't know where everybody is in their business, but when using aisle planner, I do think that there is I just want to stress the importance of kind of already having SOPs in place with your intake process and what your steps are as far as planning. So that way you could build out aisle planner to really work for you. Because if you don't kind of level set and do that up front, then it ends up not really working out that well. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
And that's why the one that I share with you all, that I'll figure out how to reshare it with you all, that's what we have for years. But you also, the onboarding process and the inquiry, the whole onboarding process that we talked about earlier, you have to kind of map it out. How are you going to do that kind of thing? And if, just sit down and be like, how am I currently doing it? Or if you don't have one, let's create one in that way. And like I said, if you want to create a document with your onboarding or your process like that, a Google Doc, and then share with me, I could always give you pointers too.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think I was probably using that like Google Sheets or Word documents for at least 3 years before I started using Aisle Planner. So it took me a while.
Okay.
But if you do it, if you get your process in place, like Tara said, a little sooner, you could always use the stuff sooner. But as far as, I definitely do say, as far as like sending out proposals, sending out invoices and get some kind of system for that, because it's easier. You'll get paid much faster.
So that one
I
doesn't
have
come
a
in through,
question.
that proposal setup is not through, you said you have it through Dosado, right?
Dosado.
Not
Yeah, we do,
through
yeah,
Aisle
not
Planner, because it
Planner,
doesn't have that option.
Well, because when
to-
I first started using Aisle Planner, it didn't. The reason I love Aisle Planner so much was because it was created by a planner. It
Right.
wasn't like some kind of techie person. It was created by a planner. She's still very much involved. I've met Christina and her team, and a lot of her team members have been planners before. So there's women on the head of that putting it together for us, because it's different than a techie guy who's coming up with like stuff. Like I've used planning programs before. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. You've never planned nothing. You've never cut cake or bustled a dress. Like, you don't know any of this stuff. So she did that. So we used Dosado, but it was so much easier and we already had our system in there to do it, but we use it for that. And and you can manipulate it. You make pictures, you can have pictures, you can make it pretty and all that good stuff too. And it's, to me, is a little bit cheaper than, at the time for me, it was less expensive than HoneyBook, which was like $500 a pop. This is like $20 a month. It doesn't even hurt me. It's like a couple cups of coffee. Any other questions? I'm sorry I kept you guys longer. Any other questions?
I'm sorry, can you share the one that you said, Prosado, that one?
Dosado, yes. I'll share it. I'll share it in the group and the affiliate link, and then I'll also share the Aisle Planner so you can see.
And my last question is, are you gonna send us the link to the, you gave me the assets already, right? I got it. Okay, that's my question. That's it. I tell you, I learned so much. And again, I'm a wedding officiant, and I have my own business as well. It's called Liz's Wedding Officiant, and I'm learning so. Oh my God, that the diagram that you showed where to stand.
That'd be really good for you.
But I shared that already with my bride.
Oh, absolutely. Share that, because it gets them to think, and they have to be an active participant in their wedding. Like I've had people say, "Can I just give you my credit card and show up in a year?" No, booby. No booking.
I love it.
Like I literally had a groom say, "Here's my black card. Can we just show up?" Because she was a lawyer and he was super busy. So just started a law firm. He was in tech. He's like, "We don't have time for this." I'm like, then those are the kind of people that you give them two options, A or B. Do you like A linen? Do you like B linen? Do you like A centerpiece or B? You don't give them more than that. And they have to make decisions. That's it. And they're like, oh, that one, I don't like that one. I like that one. That chicken tastes better than this chicken, and that's it. They don't need that much fluffing time. Like, they don't need that.
So I just got married in 2019, and my wedding, I tell you, I'm married to my wife. We just got married. We're gonna be almost 2 years now. But she did the whole planning. I bought the dress because I mean, I wasn't a bridezilla, but she thinks I was. But anyway, but it was a simple, personal, intimate wedding. It came out good. But like you said, it's the cutting, and people don't understand that, the budget, and you know,
it is an emotional time for everybody. I don't care what the situation is, how old they are. It's very emotional. And I tell every couple, you will see it brings out the best and the worst in people.
Yeah.
Planning a wedding, friends and family alike. And so I always say we're Dr. Phil, Ayanna Van Zant, Oprah.
I love it. I
everybody,
love this.
like all into one. Like I call for cake flavor confirmations and they're complaining for 20 minutes about mother-in-law. And I just listen. Okay. And give suggestions. So any other questions, Katie?
Yeah, I have one. Are you going to discuss like maybe what you shouldn't offer as a wedding planner, or certain responsibilities that, you know, we shouldn't be doing because of, you know, all the other, right, everything else that you have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm cut from a different cloth because I come from the hotel industry. I will color cake if I have to. I will sit behind a bar and pour some champagne. I will, you know, a glass broke. I will get we are a different breed, and that comes from hospitality. Like, do whatever we have to do, and we'll handle the rest later.
Yes.
And by looking out for our vendors, I promise you, they will look out for you.
Exactly.
You might get your colleagues might say, I can't believe, girl, did I just see a video on TikTok that you cut cake? I don't ever cut cake. So it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's literally at that time you're doing nothing but standing around. Let's just be real. There comes a point in the wedding that you're literally like, is it 11 o'clock yet? Because you're just, not that you don't like the couple, you're just tired. You're like, what time? I've been on my feet since what time? And if you have to jump in, and those are the little things that take you no time and no sweat to do that people remember for a lifetime.
Right. And do you get involved in like, say for instance, like bridal shower and, you know,
if depending on who they are and like full planning but that's always an upcharge. It's always a la carte. Like, you want me to help you plan that? Well, I could do this. So I could definitely share a list of other things that there's always, yes, we can do that. It's going to cost you extra. It's going to cost this much.
Right.
It's not in your initial proposal. I mean, there's little things here and there that you can do, but if it's not in your initial proposal, something that big, no. Like I have a full planning client now that I'm like, we did not include rehearsal planning, but in her proposal, if you choose to add rehearsal, dinner, planning, and managing, it costs this much. The day after brunch, it costs this much. Yep. I used to do it all under one price, and then I'm like, nope, I'm getting too old. See the gray hair? I'm getting too old.
As I say, time is money, right?
Exactly. So my husband told me this a few years ago. If they're going to take you out of this house away from us, they're going to have to pay you. You know, but in my early days, let me tell you something. You saw full planning for $1,250. I mean, for not $1,200, yeah, $1,250, $1,200 for full planning. And I'll share the video with you guys. It was a 16-hour day.
And I saw I saw the wedding officiant also for $3. I'm like, oh no, that's too little for me right now.
Right. No, it's okay. And I mean, and it takes a while. And I'll tell you, the beginning stages,
Yeah.
You will take on every type of client. You will take out those low things. And I've said this before in my Facebook group, and I'll say it before. There's weddings, even in the last 2 years, there's been weddings that there's not a picture on the phone. We didn't ask for no pictures from the photographer. We don't even speak of the wedding, right? But we had to pay bills, right? That's the reality of that. Or I wanted the experience of working in that venue or working in that environment. And so I took a lesser cut. You know what I'm saying? So you just have to be smart about it. But yeah,
Right.
there's do's and don'ts, but we will take care. We do, listen, it's handled. I mean, that's one of our slogans. It's like, it's handled. We will take care of it. Now, somebody throws up all over the place. Somebody tossed condoms one time at the end of the wedding. And it wasn't that, I wasn't there. One of my leads was there, and I was like, you will not touch those things. You understand me? They dragged the drunk groomsmen and made them pick it up. So yeah, so you have your limits. Any other questions, ladies?
Mhm.
Just real quick, we
I
talked
have a question.
Yes, Ms. Grace.
I know you talked about 17 hacks and plan. No, you talk about Dubsado and Art Planner. So are you using Art Planner because Dubsado does not have that process from the time you book the client to like the checklist and everything to the time they get married?
Yeah. Well,
Like I don't know if you go ahead.
I know that there's people that like Tanisha Lee. She actually uses, if I'm not mistaken, she uses Dubsado to like its fullest capacity because there's tasks in there. Like there's ways to make it more robust, your Dubsado, but it's a wedding. So girls, you know, and you have to know your clients. Some clients will be okay with that. And some clients want to be able to see their full checklist, you know, and like whether you're using the CRM sheet that I share with you, you create your own of like your step-by-steps. You know, our planner there's templates already in there that you could use, or you could upload your own stuff. With Dubsado, there are certain things that are part of the system, and that you have to add to the system. You see what I'm saying? So that's why we use our planner. It's easier.
So the CRM,
Yeah, I've noticed that our planner is just
the CRM
visually
that you
pretty
share.
to see.
Yes, it is pretty. The CRM that you share can actually be a substitute for Art Planner.
Yes, well, you can do that. You could do that.
Okay.
It's just you have to build it yourself from scratch.
Okay, because right now I use True Client Pro. It's a new CRM. I think it came out last year. So I started using the trial and stuff, and I personally like it. But when I just started the trial with iPlanner, and I like it too. The thing is, I actually love it. I tried Honeybook. I don't know, Honeybook just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I don't like Honeybook. People love it.
Yeah, some people love it. And I think it's also when Tara said, it's the more you use it, or if you have somebody to teach you, like Dubsado is good because I had all my processes and procedures and my flows already created, and my operations manager, because she was familiar with Dubsado, which is Wanda, she put it all in there and she manipulated and did all the workflows or whatever else. Same thing with our planner. You can go straight to using their stuff that's already templated in there, or you can go in and, you know, change it up or whatever else and create your own templates in there. But like Tara said earlier, you have to have your processes mapped out so that you know what you're putting into it. Like and I had all these systems and didn't have my processes in place, and had all these systems was paying. And then I was like, wait a minute, I need to get my processes together. And then everything worked flow. And you know,
I think that's something I need to get on, like get my process together, because True Client Pro, I like it because it's like for planners and designer at the same time. I don't know if Art Planner has a design side. I don't know.
It has a design board.
To that point yet.
Yeah, you could upload things.
Or just a design board, but it doesn't. Like True Client Pro is like a combination of like a planning CRM and Curate.
Yeah, and then there's
a combination of planning and Curate.
Yeah, there's a new diagram program called Be Merry, and we'll talk about that when we get to the design portion. And it's killer. It's better than All Seated. It's better than some of the other ones. I love it, and it's really good for designers. And so we'll talk about that and we go that. It's called Be Merry, MERRI, and I have a link for that. But Yeah, it's just kind of my preference. And if you're in the beginning stages now, it's just good to get a demo, like Tara said, sign up for the trials, play with it for a little bit, see what you like, see what speaks to you, see what flows for you, and what's going to flow for your clients. Any other questions or comments? Ariel?
I just have another question. I'm sorry.
Yes,
How
okay.
long are the classes on Wednesday?
They're supposed to be 90 minutes, but it's okay. It's okay. Listen, it's okay. I'm here to serve, so it's okay. Like a few of the ladies had to jump off because I had to get babies to bed and all that good stuff. My husband's on baby duty on Wednesday nights. They're
I'm
10 and
just
12.
working around the house right now.
Mine are
It's
10 and
like
12, but
everywhere.
they're still babies. Yeah.
So
But yes,
it's
we'll try to keep it at 90 minutes. But it was the first class, and we had to kind of do introductions and all that stuff. So
and is every Wednesday at 7 p.m.?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, awesome. I'll be here.
Okay.
Yep. Any other questions?
And thank you so much. I just want to thank you so much for thinking about this, because like I don't think I've ever like you said, a lot of planners or coaches or how do you call them, instructors, educators, they they teach you how to work on the business side, but the nitty gritty, like the hands-on stuff like that, I don't know if anybody else does that, but I actually never seen that. So when I saw the blueprint and everything that was included, I'm like, okay, that really teaches you how to do the planning, how
Like
to
how to
do the
serve it.
wedding planning stuff.
Right.
Yes.
My mentor Kathy said like a month ago, she was like, you cannot sell what you don't know. You can't. So the more you know, the
True.
better off you are. So you learn from each other, you learn from other people. We're gonna learn together. Like, I've done destination weddings, but I've done it where we've actually went to a destination and did a whole wedding, like not traveled. Like, okay, we're gonna do a resort here. Because I always get people who just want to go and be extra and rent a house. That kind of thing. So I'm excited just to see where everybody's going to go with this. And again, any questions, any comments as you're going through the information, I'll make sure I put all this stuff into Dubsado tomorrow under class 1. I'll share with everybody the actual CRM. I'm just going to share the actual CRM and not putting it in the Dropbox. Not put it in the Drive folder, and let me know if you can open it. Well, I'll know because you'll all request to open it. And then as you're going through the stuff this week, ask questions, comments, send me things that you want to and all that good stuff. And we are here. I'm here.
Okay.
All right. Connect with each other if anybody has a question, especially if those are in the same city, in the same area. You move into Texas, and we have a Texas lady there too. Connect. Right? Because right. Where are you, Sharva? Are you in Houston or are you Dallas? Is it Sharva?
I'm in Dallas.
Dallas. Area, where you moving to?
I'm moving to Dallas.
There you go.
Hey, welcome.
Yeah.
Am I the only one that's up north?
Where are you? Yeah, no, wait. You're the only one up north right
Pennsylvania.
now? Well, it's snowy.
Yeah,
right,
well,
ladies.
it's cold. Cold and snowy.
It'll be cold and raining here all weekend. So
Ah.
it went from 70 to cold and raining. All right, ladies. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Have a great week. Again, please
Thank
don't
you.
hesitate to message me if you have any questions this week. And then next week, we're really going to dig deep into the actual planning a little bit more, hiring vendors and all that, and then setting up for site visits and all that good stuff.
Thank
Okay.
you. This was
All right.
great.
Thank you.
This
Thank
was great.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Ariel.
ladies.
Good
Great
night.
first
Thank
class.
you.
Have a great
Bye.
night.
You
You too.
too.
Bye.
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 Mm-hmm.